Hi, my name is Michael Levengood. I'm going to be presenting on web mapping urban transit in Valdivia, Chile. So I want to quickly give you an overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to start with some background about the study area, what my problem was that I was exploring, and also my objectives, not objections, objectives, even though there are objections. Also my methods. I'm going to be talking about my data sources, the digitization process, and also the development of web applications, and then show you those applications. So I wanted to show you these pictures because, oops, did the same thing? Okay. So let's see, go back. I wanted to show you these pictures to kind of explain how I arrived at this topic. So I actually lived in Valdivia, Chile 6 years ago. I spent a year there teaching English at the Universidad Austral de Chile. So this is actually my English class there. And this is the flag of Chile. So it kind of looks like the flag of a certain state in the United States. So slightly different, but don't mess with Chile either. So when you move to a foreign country, it's a great experience. You get to experience the culture. You learn the language. So I learned Spanish when I was there. And you learn a lot about public transportation. So for me, that was true because I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm used to driving everywhere. But in Chile, I didn't have a car. So I had to really learn about public transportation there. So in terms of urban transportation in Chile, so in Santiago, which is the capital of Chile, it's the largest city, they have a system called Transantiago, which includes a metro, as you can see right there, and also modern buses. This is a relatively new system. However, in regional Chilean cities, so these are the cities outside of Santiago, which are much smaller, they have less modern transportation networks. So their main forms of transportation are micros, which you can see a picture of a micro bus up here. This is a micro in Valdivia, which are privately run bus lines that are regulated by the local governments. And then also colectivos. And colectivos are shared taxis that run on fixed routes. And they also have colectivos in Santiago as well. So some background about Valdivia, Chile. So I decided to focus specifically on Valdivia. So Valdivia is the capital of Región de los Ríos, which is right down here. It's the 14th region of Chile. You can see it's south of Santiago. The main economic sectors in Valdivia are education, tourism, and forestry. And with so much forest and tourism, you might imagine that they also have lots of forests there. So it's famous for its temperate rainforests and for its navigable rivers, the only navigable river in all of Chile. And you might have actually heard of Valdivia before because in 1960 it was home to the strongest earthquake that's ever been recorded in the history of the world, 9.5. So I got a little carried away with the animation there, but it completely destroyed the city of Valdivia. So. This is a map of the study area. So you can see the study area is not just Valdivia, the city of Valdivia here, located at this bend in the river, but it extends out to the coast to this town called Niebla, and that is on the Pacific coast. So Valdivia is about 15 miles inland from the Pacific Ocean. However, some of the bus lines actually run out to Niebla. Here's a picture of Valdivia from the center of the city looking to the southeast, which is where most of the city sprawls. You can also see here Los Arcos de Oro. The golden arches are everywhere. This is looking southeast, so this is looking down the river toward the Pacific Ocean. And also across the river, you can see here Isla Teja, which is a suburban area of Valdivia. And it's where the university is located. So a lot of the bus lines go to Isla Teja because students are some of the principal users of the microbuses. And just one more picture looking across the river at downtown Valdivia. So you can see it's a very beautiful city, right? So you might be asking, why do you need to use public transit? It's so beautiful. It's not very big. You can walk everywhere. And when I first arrived in Valdivia in March, which was toward the end of the summer, that's what I did. I walked from where I was living to the university. I walked all over town, and it was fine. However, Valdivia's beauty is deceptive. So starting in April 1st usually, it starts to rain. And it doesn't stop raining until December. So they have an oceanic climate similar to coastal Washington, receiving upwards of 100 inches of rain a year. So it's such an important part of life in Valdivia that their slogan is Valdivia, lluvia es vida, which means rain is life. Another concern in the winter is that there's high particulate air pollution due to wood-burning stoves. So people heat their homes using wood-burning stoves. This is actually a picture of Valdivia. So you don't want to be out walking around in the winter in that either. And then finally, Valdivia has some very dangerous lobos marinos, or what we call sea lions, which lurk down by the river. And they have actually been known to attack people. and straight into the road. So this was actually from an article in the Daily Mail UK reporting from Valdivia in June 5th, 2014. So for all these reasons, I eventually had to take transit, had to take these buses, but there was a big problem. I didn't know where any of the buses went. So I saw them go by where I was living, I saw them arrive at the university. There were like 11 different lines, and I had no idea where they went. And I tried to ask the bus drivers. I didn't speak very good Spanish, I couldn't really understand them. I looked for maps, I couldn't find them. I found a map inside the bus, but it wasn't very helpful. I'll show you an example. And so really, sometimes I just got on buses and had no idea where I was going. And that's a problem, right? And I started thinking, maybe this wasn't just a problem for me when I lived in Chile. Maybe it's a problem for other public transit users as well. So even residents of Valdivia, or if not residents, certainly tourists or visitors or new residents to Valdivia. So I wanted to take you through some of the existing resources just to show you how bad this problem really is. So if you look here, you can see what the front of a bus looks like. So we have like the number of the bus, we have kind of where it's coming from, where it's going, another place that it's going, a street that it takes, how much it costs, but not very helpful, right? Then you have maps also that are posted inside the bus. This is actually from another city in Chile, but it's similar. I actually remember these maps being hand-drawn. However, apparently they've been upgraded. But they're still these dreaded free-floating vectors. So they're just these lines, right? And this is not a real grid. It's just a random grid that these lines are posted on top of. So it's really not helpful at all. And then finally, this map is available now. It wasn't available when I was there. But this is from the Ministerio de Transporte y Telecomunicaciones. Their map of micro and colectivo lines in Valdivia, Chile. And it looks pretty, right? Everything's fine. But let's zoom in. And you can see that it has 27 different colectivo lines represented by 27 different colors. And they're all going over pretty much the same road. So that makes it almost impossible to distinguish. And then also, we have the micro routes, which are represented on just one single black line and shown by these different labels throughout. So again, not very helpful. And I challenge you to look at this map and try to follow one route from the beginning to the end. It cannot be done. So my objective then was to create an online map of Valdivia's transit system that allows users to better visualize micro routes. An example that I kind of based this off of was Portland's TriMet interactive map. So I'll show you what that looks like. This is their transportation system. You can choose different routes over here, and then they pop up on top of this base map. So my methods for this project was to first start by consulting the Ministerio de Transporte y Telecomunicaciones map to determine the routes, and if they ever were not clear, which was often, I would use this other website, Bus America, which has published data from the ministry also showing street by street what are the streets that they follow. Then I digitized these routes on top of the Esri Streets base map using ArcMap. So this is just kind of a process showing how I digitized them. I started by creating a line feature class. I digitized 11 of the routes. I had to split those lines at vertices because I ran into a problem when I was mapping these. I realized that it wasn't always clear which direction was which. So you saw like in the downtown, a lot of the bus routes would go west on the north side and then east on the south side. That wasn't clear just on that map before or on my map. So I had to split them at vertices and then create a separate field for each segment and assign either one-way or two-way directions to those different segments. Then I merged the segments between the intersections so that when I did symbolize them with arrows, that they overlapped nicely between the different lines. And then if there were any lines that overlapped each other, I made sure that they shared a similar geometry so that if I had many different lines open at the same time, they weren't just slightly off. And then finally, I took that feature class and I split it into 11 distinct feature classes, one for each route. And I did that because it was easier to symbolize them and also because it was easier to upload them to the web mapping applications. And then finally, I symbolized each route with a different color. So clear differences between the colors so you could tell them apart if you had more than one open at the same time. And then I symbolized one-way sections with arrows in the direction of travel. The next step was to create web applications. So for that, I took an ArcMap service with all 11 layers and routes, added, symbolized, and turned off on an MXD document. And then I shared that over the ArcGIS for server. And then I created two web applications. And the reason I wanted to do two is I wanted to get experience using these two different programs to create web applications. One of those was ArcGIS API for JavaScript. So the benefit of that is that you have more freedom and control to create exactly the site that you want. The downside is that it requires more coding. It's more coding intensive. So you can use their samples, but you have to develop your own code. And then I also used another web application, which is ArcGIS Online, which has a template, and you're able to use their widgets that are already programmed in. So my results. The first web application I developed was using ArcGIS API for JavaScript. It allows users to check on and off routes to better visualize individual routes. So for me, that was the most important thing. When you have so many routes going over the exact same roads, you have to be able to see them separately. The next step was to switch between streets basemap and satellite basemap. I built that into the code as well. And then here is the URL. So I want to show that to you really quick. So this is what it looks like. If you pull it up, you can see this map. You can switch to a satellite map if you would like, the base map. And then here are the different routes. So 1T is one of the routes. We can see that there. You can turn it off, turn on another one. We can zoom in. We can turn on different routes as well. And so basically, you could turn on all the routes at once, but that would kind of defeat the purpose, because the whole purpose was that we could see them separately. Let me go back. OK. The next, this is just in case the internet wasn't working. So we'll go through this quickly. The next application was using ArcGIS Online. So this allowed me to also do check routes on and off. I could also switch base maps on this. You could view pop-ups with route information, and then also measure distance and search location. So those were some other widgets that were built into the template for this app. So let me go ahead and open this one. Hopefully this comes up. OK, it does. So you can see here, this is the similar map, right? We can turn on and off the different routes. So an additional functionality, if I have this one on, for example, I can click a pop-up. Let me see if this one will go for me. Yeah, so route 1T, you can see it tells me how much it costs. It costs 350 pesos. There's a picture. So all the routes have different looking buses. So you can see what a picture of that bus looks like. And then if I click, then it takes me to this website, which is what I used to confirm the routes when needed. So this has just road by road the different routes that the bus follows. And then some other things that you can do. You can change the base map if we want to do satellite. We can locate ourselves wherever you are. You can look at an overview map to see where this is located in the broader region. And you can also measure distances. So if I wanted to see how far is the distance from this road down to here, I can measure that. Oh, I have to choose this. Here we go. Oops. So again, these can also be viewed on smartphones. So you can load these into your smartphone, and then they will show up like this. And they work just as the normal sites with all the functionalities. And I thought this was very important, because if you're on the bus or if you're waiting in line for the bus, then you're going to need to be able to view these on your smartphone. So finally, a conclusion is that transit users using these applications are better able to visualize routes on interactive online maps rather than static maps. And that's especially true for public transportation, because they tend to go over the same routes several times. Or many different routes go over the same roads. Also, the online map of Valdivia's micro routes allows transit users to more efficiently plan transit trips. And so in the future, these applications could be extended to include colectivo routes as well. Remember, there were 27 different colectivo routes in Valdivia. And also to add additional functionality. So I would like to be able to, in the future, add a route finding function. So to go from one place to another, it would tell you which routes to use. And finally, similar maps could be created for other cities in Chile as well. So I just showed you the terrible maps for Valdivia, but let me tell you, all the cities in Chile have terrible transit maps. So similar maps could be created for those cities as well. So with the help of these applications, there will be, if you go to Valdivia today, there will be no more puzzling over unreadable maps, delaying boarding by asking directions for micro drivers, taking wrong routes and ending up on the opposite side of town, or walking in the rain. So instead of seeing this bus pull away from you, taunting you with this slogan, Valdivia, UVS Vida, as you're walking in the rain. With these maps, now you can just take the bus. Any questions?